resulted in very extraordinary changes in our lives. Nothing is the same anymore. And whereas perhaps ordinarily we would chat in rum shops, at a funeral with large numbers, at a birthday party, family lunch, we now have to leverage the technology available to us so we can continue to dialogue, to have the conversation, to bring to the fore the things that concern you and how I have been able to respond, of course, largely in collaboration with my colleagues as well. So thank you for having me. It is an absolute pleasure to be with you this evening, and I pray that you will stay with me through to the end. Why are we doing this? We're doing this because we are all so very busy, and there are so many different news outlets, so many various forms of relaying news and information that whereas so much is done on Facebook or through the traditional media, Creole news, radio, television, we understand that for us to reach different demographic groups, different parts of the population, different geographic groups as well, that we need to engage you as broadly as we can. So this evening we are on television and also live on Facebook. I trust that you will find this very informative, and when we do get to that point, we will entertain some of your questions and comments as well. So just let me thank you for joining me this evening and to say to you what a pleasure it is for me to be able to share with you some of the things I know that matter to you and your families. COVID. COVID has brought the entire world to a halt, and many of us have been directly or indirectly impacted by COVID. I beg of you, please, to join me in a moment of silence for those we have lost recently, especially those who succumbed to COVID-19. Shall we bow our heads for a moment? And we pray especially for those who continue to mourn the loss of their loved ones. May the good Lord continue to comfort you during this day. And that is why, dear friends, it is so important for us to adhere to the COVID-19 protocols. I know that Easter is around the corner, and you have heard of the newly instituted protocols. I beg of all of us, I know things are different. These are extraordinary times. Please, just for a moment, let's just do the right thing for our sake, for the sake of the country, for the sake of your families. I pray that we'll continue to have your cooperation in that regard. We'll take a short break for now, and I'll meet you on the other side. Thank you.
My MP said that we would have a new wellness center. Here we are. It's almost finished.
My community said we needed a new wing to our secondary school. And my MP said yes.
My sister said she needed help to find a job, so my MP created a job fair.
Our athlete said we needed better sporting facilities.
A new early childhood development center.
My neighbors said.
My sister said.
The children said.
Community said.
Roads and a new park. And my MP said.
Yes.
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 Of course.
Nous tous, c'est yon famille en Micoud Nord. Et nous continuons pour faire progrès avec Aunty Gale.
Thank you so much for staying with us. And allow me, if I may, to just trace this either very short or long journey, depending on when you joined me along that journey. Roughly 10 years ago, I offered myself for public service to represent the constituency of Mico North on a UWP. And I remember the early days so clearly, especially the many conversations that I had with elders, with young people, professionals, sportsmen and women, fishermen, farmers. Every sector was touched, and I relished those conversations. And these are the conversations that informed what I had then dubbed back in 2011 a 14-point plan for the constituency. And I want to remind all of us that these conversations, candid, honest, sometimes really rough depending on who I'm talking to, that they are important. They have proven to be instrumental in informing everything that we do, everything that I do in the constituency. So for example, I remember the meeting we had at the community center in Monrepo. And we had then invited the various sports councils and representatives from the various sporting clubs in the constituency. And of course, as is expected, the persons from the various sub-communities spoke of their ambitions and what they would love to see happen with their respective sporting or playing facilities. And that conversation, like I said, was frank. It was honest. It was tough. How do I say to people that in their neck of the woods, perhaps they can't get the stadium that they want, or that we have to share sporting facilities, and that, as was agreed at the meeting, that the Monrepo Wen playing field had proven to be the cricket hub in the constituency, but at that time, the road was barely motorable. And we agreed too that football would be the focus of the Mico playing field. That was 10 years ago. And that is why I'm sure you realize that we began that journey together by delivering on the first commitment to make the road to the Wen playing field motorable. And that is why, albeit it was done in phases, because sometimes you can't do everything in one go, now we have a very motorable, sturdy, concrete road that leads to the Wen playing field. And that's the first phase of the development of the Wen playing field. The second thing that we agreed to as a collective was that Mico, the Mico playing field, would be seen as the football hub. And back then, 10 years ago, a lot was said about the necessary upgrade of that facility. In fact, I still have those early architectural sketches that depict a renovated or rehabilitated field with a recreational park and seating for families and fans. Here we are 10 years on. And it was this week that we were able to witness firsthand the full rehabilitation of the Mico playing field and the laying of the AstroTurf. So in the second phase, we can expect that the Wen playing field will become that cricket hub. And we will ensure that we do meet the international standards for cricket. Now that we have done the road, it's only natural we move to the next phase. In Mico, now that we're nearing completion of the playing field, then we move into the next phase. And those of you who have joined me on the many community meetings and consultations that we've had, you know there's an expectation that we have a decent-sized swimming pool as well, because you will realize that swimming facilities on the East Coast are pretty few and far between. And so it is important that we bring the sport of swimming. In fact, the ability to swim is really a life skill because as a small island known for having so many coastal villages, one would expect that we should all at least know how to swim and save ourselves, as we say. So that is in the next phase of the Mico playing field. In the interim, we have rehabilitated the Patience Court, I think at least twice. It is currently undergoing some attention as well. I think the marking is due to begin any minute now following the rehabilitation. It had not benefited from professional markings for the sports for which the court is designated. Similarly, the court in Mico had received some attention as well. Now, there's a very important playing field right there, smack in the heart of Monipo, opposite the Roman Catholic Church, near the SDA Church, to the back of what used to be the Monipo Combined School. And that field is so important because it is there that many young sportsmen and women from the community begin their sporting career, explore their various sporting skills, and give life to their various aspirations. The road to that field was just a rocky track, rocky dirt road, as we all know. But although we did it in 2 or 3 phases, now we do have a completed road to that sporting facility. And I want to thank residents for their patience, because last year in March 8th, on International Women's Day, we had hosted a women's cricket meet right there on that field. And it was really heartbreaking to see that halfway through the road had discontinued, the concrete road had discontinued, and we were still back on the dirt, rocky surface. But thank goodness, 1 year on, now we have a completed concrete road to that Monipo playing field. So I know those ladies who brackle me, like we would say, yo chebe mo dog quick, and Aunty Gale swele estashi mesala, no quizele estashi mesala. Thank goodness, here we are. And I would have loved for us to return, because that was the plan, for us to return in March of this year to commemorate International Women's Day with a cricket match, because so many people had enjoyed it that we thought we should make it a staple of International Women's Day. Because of COVID, we couldn't, but at least we got the infrastructure in place. And I really want to thank the residents for their patience. Similarly, when we last held the Gale Rigabutt football competition on the playing field in Mico, I said boldly, very boldly, because I moved by faith, and I know that my colleagues in the cabinet would have continued to lend their support. I said boldly that the next Gale Rigabutt football tournament would be held on the field only when that field is fully reconstructed. And so we're ready. I regret that we had expectations to have that first Gale Rigabutt tournament to be held on the new field sometime last year, but again, because of COVID, we suffered some delay. And in fact, we were going to hold that cricket tournament in honor of our fallen soldier friend, footballer and community man, Fitz Charlery Ryder, as we all know him. And so I know that this year, many of those things that we had anticipated would have happened in 2020. We pray that we can see them come to life this year. I must thank the sportsmen and women for their patience. I know the footballers have had to do their warm-up matches and to maintain their fitness by using or utilizing the Beauchamp field. Let me thank the players in Beauchamp and Tiroche, because they've learned to coexist with the Mico North footballers, and that has worked out beautifully. So thank you for that collaboration. Thank you for accommodating our sportsmen from the community, because we all understand that this is only temporary and that very soon we'll be able to come back to our home field in Mico Village. Let me indicate as well that whereas we have done some significant rehabilitation on the Patience Court, my recent visits suggest that there has been some wear and tear And so we may have to revisit that facility very shortly to ensure that we can maintain the standard and that it can be used for the purpose intended. In fact, one of the things I'm very pleased about is that we were able to address the electrical problem we had on that court, because for those of us in the community, we know that court is used not only for sporting activities, but that's where movie nights are held, that's where fundraising activities for our loved ones who are unwell are held. That's where we congregate for pretty much everything in the constituency. Most social events, for some reason, are held on the Patience Court. And right there in the vicinity of the Patience Court, you will notice there are 3 interconnecting new roads. There is the road that was built about two or more years ago when, thanks to the organizers of Creole Day, Cecen Descartes' residence, Dame Cecen Descartes' residence was earmarked to host the Violin Festival. And I approached Prime Minister and Minister for Infrastructure and asked that the road be done, because you will recall that road was not paved in any way, it was just a dirt road. And I want to thank Minister King and to thank Prime Minister, because in very short order that road was delivered. Unfortunately, that year, that particular activity on the calendar was rained out, so to speak, but the road stayed. Thank goodness it was well built, and maybe that was just the good spirit of Dame Cecen Descartes hovering over the place, ensuring that we can breathe meaning into the ambition to make that part of the community the cultural hub. Then, of course, when we had the merger of Monrepo Combined School and Passias Combined School, in the many consultations that were held, one of the things that did come up was that there was a road pretty much lying in waste, overgrown with bushes and trees, and certainly not motorable at all, not passable. And we felt that one of the things we could do is to reinstate that road, so to speak, because apparently it had been earmarked for full construction at some point in the past, so that it allows for several things to happen. One, we take the children off the highway at the earliest possible time, that you open up the community not only for ease of access, but you open it up also for economic opportunity. And of course, to top it all off, we have the new access road to Passias, Cecen, Vietnam, and the new wing of the now merged Monrepo Passias Combined School. Please join me as we enjoy a short clip showcasing that new wing and the roads recently built. I understand that some of you may not have had the pleasure of hearing the beautiful music in the background. Please bear with us and let's take a look again. Looks like Murphy is very much at work this evening, but the Holy Spirit will take care of that. I have with me in studio this beautiful young lady from our constituency in the person of Hannah Ferdinand. Hannah is 17 years old and attends Sir Arthur Lewis Community College. Hannah is with me this evening because apparently she has some really tough questions for me. So Hannah, let me welcome you this evening. Thank you so much for joining me this evening. And you know, because we've interacted, how much it is that I appreciate hearing from the young people, and I love the candid, frank exchanges, and certainly I enjoy the tough questions.
Right.
So thank you for joining us, and over to you, Hannah.
Oh, firstly, I'd like to say it's a pleasure to be here, and thanks for the introduction. Like she said, I am from the beautiful, peaceful, loving community of Moripur, who is filled with talented people, and I attend the Sir Arthur Lewis Community College. So may we start?
Certainly.
Okay. So my first question is, what policies are you and the government currently working on that will be of benefit to the youth of your constituency and by extension, St. Lucia?
Thank you, Hannah, for that question. In fact, like I indicated in my opening comments, many of the conversations I had on assuming this position and offering myself for public service, these conversations were with young people. I can tell you, as you know, these can be very tough engagements. So, I've already hinted at what we did with sports. I can tell you this came from the sentiment of the young people. That is what they asked for. And my task is simply to deliver on that expectation. Secondly, with respect to education, one of the things that I am very, very proud of and pleased that we're able to pull off, so to speak, is our hashtag First Generation Initiative. And that program targets children, students, young aspiring professionals and scholars who wish to pursue a tertiary education and come from families perhaps that can't afford, or also come from families where no one has previously been to university or college. And we have been able to facilitate that in several ways, by way of full or partial scholarships, also by exposing our students to another examination stream, a pre-college examination modality, that is the ACT. And also, about 2 more years ago, we engaged roughly 13 or 15 universities and colleges with the view to securing partial and full scholarships for our students. And I can say to you, we've also been able to increase the number of scholarships available. Thirdly, in the 10 years I've been here, we've held at least 2 or more work or job fairs or career readiness fairs, along with how to dress, how to conduct yourself in an interview. So these programs we hold either under the parliamentary banner or sometimes in collaboration with youth organizations. So we partner with them, we co-sponsor. And that's important because we recognize that well beyond acquiring the technical competency, the know-how, we also need to expose our young people to the how-to.
Right,
and allow me please to thank the main sponsors of that segment of the Job Career Readiness Fair, which was in two parts on the last occasion. One part was with potential employers, and we had many of the government agencies represented. We did it right there in Monipo at the Monipo Combined School grounds, and also private sector organizations were represented. We had scholarships on offer, devices, laptops, tablets, printers. We had several prizes on offer. But the second segment, which was how to dress. How do you impress an interviewer? And we had partnered with Taj Weeks and Angela Seri, and they had come in from the U.S. to help with this. And I wish more people had availed themselves of the opportunity.
Yes.
The expectation was that we're going to do this again last year, 2020, the year that was not a year.
We all can agree to that, right?
Yes, yes. And more recently, following a visit to Washington, where I attended a meeting with the World Bank, at that meeting I had with me the Director of Gender Relations, who incidentally is a Jean Mopo as well, the Permanent Secretary of Education, who's a Jean Miku, also the Deputy Permanent Secretary, I think, was on there, the representative from Solid Waste and Sustainable Development. And the reason we went as a team, it's because we recognize the interconnectedness of the things that we do in education, in sustainable development, in gender relations. And coming out of that meeting, we started to frame a project that focused largely on technical, vocational, educational training, and with a gender-sensitive dimension. And that also informed what has now become our TVET policy with a gender-sensitive TVET policy component. And very importantly, we now have the money. It is part of the Human Capital Resilience Project. And in time, you'll hear more about it. And I'm hoping people like you, given that your area is hospitality, which falls smack within that frame, that someone like you can benefit as well.
Right, right.
We've also brought jobs like the call centers we've established, especially in G40. You know, as a southerner, we have to, celebrate the things.
Right, right.
And, I'm sure you know lots of people.
Yes,
from the
of course I do. Yeah.
What do you think of the jobs at Ojo, for example?
Well, some people I know are very thankful for the jobs because jobs was kind of hard to find, and now they found the job, and they're even happier because they get to work at home. So I guess it's a good thing.
Oh, that's good to know. We always appreciate the feedback because, my colleagues and I in the cabinet, we always recognize that there is room for improvement, and the feedback is very, very important. So thank you for that. What we did as well, which many young people benefited from, was to partner with Monroe College to bring to the South again. It's our time. I'm sorry. I'm a Southern and I love it.
I love it too.
I can't help myself.
I don't blame you.
So we were able to partner with Monroe College and offer several hospitality training programs for young people who were intending to work either on the cruise ships or the land-based hospitality sector. And many of them have benefited from that. Of course, COVID kind of slowed down that program a little bit, but I really want to say how useful that program has been. And it did two things. One, not only did it offer you sufficient training so that you could penetrate the market and secure a job, but also to provide a baseline suite of competence, so to speak, that should you want to study at a higher level, should you want to move up the professional ladder within the hospitality sector, that you could do so as well. So I'm sure that's great news for you. And I can say to you as well, every time I hear my colleague, the Honorable Bradley Felix, speak of what he's doing for young entrepreneurs, the more recent one being something we're doing in collaboration with, I think it's the Sanusha Development Bank, if my memory serves me well, to allow young entrepreneurs a start. You know, you need that first push, you know, like a bank start, and then you gain your momentum. So that's exciting. We're also working with Sir Arthur Lewis, Invest Sanusha, and the Innovation Unit on an innovation lab for our creative people, be they musicians, IT gurus. You know, we have lots of digitally minded young entrepreneurs. So that's coming on stream. The principal of Sir Arthur Lewis gave me some very good news that we were able to secure maybe over $500,000 to allow for us to start that. And the director of innovation, who's a Jean Mopo, incidentally.
Jean Mopo do great things.
Well, we come from the East. The wise men and women come from the East. It only comes naturally.
Yes.
And it's the work ethic.
Yes,
you know, the work ethic. We know how to work hard. But all of these things are really opportunities that young people can benefit from very, very directly. The one that's very close to my heart, because I have a brother who was a very good footballer, and in his day he did not have the kinds of opportunities we afford young people now. And stemming from a conversation I had with Darren Sammy maybe 7 years ago, even before I was Minister for Education, about the pressure on young athletes to choose between an academic stream and pursuing their sporting dream. Now we have the Sanusha Sports Academy that offers students the dual path of growth. So you can simultaneously, in parallel, pursue your academic stream while developing your particular sporting talents, be it cricket, athletics, or football, whatever the case may be. And at that sports academy, we can also boast of another Jamopo who works there. That's Gary Mathray, who you know played for the West Indies back in the day. So all of these opportunities are really to ensure that young people can find something that they feel comfortable with and that they can identify with. And one of the things that I'm very convinced about is how much more work we have to do to expand those opportunities. Because we still have young people with very curious interests that we must accommodate, and that is why the TVET program is so important, because it will allow for us to consider those what we call non-traditional, vocational type jobs, tradesmen, and other interesting things like digital media, for example, which is the new in thing for young people.
Right.
So that's a short menu for now with lots on there.
Right.
Lots on there, but I am so pleased. And what we've done in sports, for example, as I was able to show with the academy and what we're doing in the facilities, we appreciate the holistic framework of sports. So it's not just to provide the facility, fantastic playing fields, beautiful lights, but also to ensure the professional training. The one that I confess that we need to do some more work in is with respect to resuscitating, reviving that club culture. You and I must have grown up.
Right.
Yeah, in an era. Which was your favorite club in Monaco?
Monaco, well, I was always between Gash Street or Prale. I couldn't pick, but Prale was always winning.
Don't let the guys from PYO hear you.
Well, I was Prale because my uncle played and he moved to Gash Street, so I was like I tried to sit on the fence, but
you can't. You can't. You've got to choose.
But Prale been the reigning champion, so I give it to Prale.
Yes, they did well in cricket this year. The first game
I don't
of
follow
the
cricket,
T10 cricket tournament was held last year. And they did really well. They emerged victorious, and they were so happy about that. And I'm very happy for them too. But I grew up at a time when we had Hurricane, Hot Ice. And let me tell you, when these two clubs were playing, the whole village, and that's when I first learned the phrase, si on dit fait pour une ville là, là pas des pièces mon pour
So much fire.
I know. And that literally there was this mass exodus from the village to the highway for everybody to watch the match and then everybody go back after the match.
Wow.
And people always say, oh, si on dit fait pour une ville là, pas des pièces mon pour And we want to go back to those.
Yeah,
those
I would like to see that. It was very exciting. There's no more excitement, no more entertainment. Yeah,
We need to
I
do
look
that.
forward to that.
Yes.
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 Okay.
Certainly.
So, question number 2. Given the fact that COVID has negatively impacted the education system, the most vulnerable students in particular, by that I mean those who have limited or no access to the online platform or devices, what plans does your ministry have to cater to students who have fallen through the cracks?
That's a loaded one. A loaded one. So that then allows me to add to the menu that I had started with respect to what we're doing for young people, because our students are also young people.
Right.
Many don't know this or realize this, but we had started very ambitiously and in a very focused way to ensure that we leverage, we utilize, we infuse, we integrate the new technologies in the learning and teaching experience. I said it in my first meeting with the principals, in my first meeting with the various stakeholders. I did indicate very clearly that that was going to be done. And I must say that I came into the job with that burning desire to do that. Because much of my PhD, my doctoral research, was in the area of technology and development. And one of the areas that I had focused on while doing my various topics of concern was e-education in St. Lucia in particular. And I remember the conversation I had with the late Arson James back then. He was the then Minister for Education. And that conversation was very much like the one that I had with Dr. Robert Lewis, for example, who preceded me in this job as well. And that is adequate facilities for the infusion of technology in education, ensuring that holistic embrace, ensuring that our students are not caught on the sidelines while the whole world is passing them by, because in the West, the students are more tech savvy perhaps than our students in the third world. So I felt very, very strongly that our solution students should not be disadvantaged, that they too needed to be brought into that journey, into that experience, into that new reality, into that new normal, which is that a device, a tablet, a computer, a laptop with the various learning platforms, with digital libraries preloaded on there, that holistic experience with the technology should become a staple.
So when you say the library, that means like you know how parents used to buy textbook for students, so the textbook would be on the tablets.
Exactly. So two things. One, not only do you have access to digital libraries as you have described, as we have said, but also in the way that you're describing more specifically, that you have the curriculum on there as well.
Okay.
And we've been able to do that successfully for, well, more successfully for the secondary schools, especially the upper secondary school, and then we shall migrate to the lower secondary school. And the primary school, there's some pragmatism that we must acknowledge. That's a more varied methodology, although the curricula are standard. But over time, we will be able to ensure that there is some kind of uniformity to allow for the delivery of standard programs, standard classes, in the way, for example, we're able to cookie cut a CXC subject, for example. But there's always more creativity and innovation at the primary school stage, so it's more difficult in a sense to harmonize and standardize that in a more rigid way. because of the age group, because of the versatility that you allow teachers, because they know the students. But of course, the learning platforms do help with the delivery. But with respect to the curricula, because CXC is a regional examination body and the curricula pretty much stem from that framework, it's easier to provide the various books and exercises on there for the students. And I've interacted with some of the students who have had the learn books or e-books as we call them. And as with everything in life, there is a learning curve. Not everybody will get it first time around.
Yes.
But two things I want to celebrate today. I want to celebrate the number of teachers who, while previously we had been offering courses to help enhance their e-competency or IT competency in the experience of teaching and learning, and they, would sign up leisurely, so to speak. Thanks to COVID, many of them have now availed themselves of that training because they now perceive it to be the new normal. It is the new normal.
It is.
Technology is ubiquitous. It's everywhere. ATM machine, the supermarket, wherever you go, you're surrounded by it. In your home, you WhatsApp, your family's overseas, you live chat, you do all kinds of things. And so why not ensure that we bring education into that same fray of excitement and access? It has meant that given we are a poor country and given that many of our families may struggle to provide for their children, and the compounded negative impact of COVID-19, that we've made provision, we've had to make provision for more students by way of providing them, not only as we have done in the secondary schools with devices and the curricula, but also where there's no connectivity at home, to provide them with portable Wi-Fi, which we call loosely MiFi devices. We've been able to secure over 4,000 of those. And we have started the distribution. Many families, more than half of the intended beneficiaries, have already received those. And now with respect to devices, we've started with grade 6 and we will go down to the lower grades as well. The aspirational goal is that every child will have one over time. The aspiration must be that. Like every child has an exercise book, the day must come when every child is equipped with a device. It's not a luxury item, it's a staple, it's a must-have, and we continue to mobilize resources so we can satisfy that aspiration, but also a dire need.
Right. Okay, thank you. So speaking on education, now that the nation is being vaccinated, will the ministry make it mandatory to students for the reopening of school?
As I understand it, I think the younger children are not yet eligible for vaccines. Maybe the older ones at Sir Arthur, perhaps those who are 16, 18 plus maybe, the young adults, so to speak. But I do hope that many of the teachers and parents avail themselves of the opportunity. And from what I've seen in Mico North, I did experience firsthand many of the teachers and principals did receive the vaccine, and certainly a lot of the parents did turn up. I want for them to consider it. There's enough literature out there. The Ministry of Health has done a very good job with respect to its public education on the vaccine. So I'm really hoping that more people will grab the opportunity to become vaccinated. For us, for you, for them, for me, for the sake of our little children, if for no other reason.
Okay. So after the completion of secondary school, many students are forced to stay home due to the fact that there are few job opportunities and parents cannot afford higher education. What plans or what actions will be taken to cater to such children?
Curiously, only today I was engaging with a young lady who has a human resource agency, self-empowerment, coaching kind of service. And I engaged her because I realized because of what happened last year with COVID, We were not able to do the academic and professional counseling and related activities such as the career readiness that we did in previous years to benefit school leavers, because that's important, the how to get a job. And as indicated, we have created more opportunities in the call centers, in the hospitality sector. I can say to you with respect to the arts and culture, one of the things that we are working on feverishly is to ensure that our artists, our songwriters, our singers, our jewelry makers, for example, that they are very well trained in not only their art form, but the business aspect, the economics of the art, so to speak. And in that regard, we're hoping that at South Louis we can deliver that offering. It's a program that's already pretty much very well spelled out on paper. So we're hoping that we have the resources in the new academic year to do that. Additionally, we can say that because of the programs that we've done with robotics, for example, and the 2 digital competency courses we introduced at the lower secondary school, and the re-engineering that has taken place with courses at South Louis Community College, that we have afforded young people not only the opportunity to find a job, but to become young entrepreneurs. And that's the ambition. Not only are you seeking employment, seeking out an employer to hire you, but that you can consider entrepreneurship. You can consider starting your own business. And that is why what we do in commerce, what we do with the Youth in Agriculture program, what we do with the innovation unit in the ministry, what is happening at South Louis Community College, what we've done with Monroe College, that all these things come together to create that groundswell of activity and expand opportunity for young people. I must say as well, within the Ministry of Education, we have a beautiful group of fantastic young ladies who work in what we call the Human Resource Development Unit, and their role is not only to administer existing scholarships, but we also go out shopping for more opportunity. We also engage young people who are desirous of studying as to, what they should consider, how they should go about doing it. For example, one of the things that concerns me, very often students go out there, choose a country, choose a university, and then come to the ministry and say, can you please finance my program? And I beg of them, let's do it the other way around. Come to the ministry. Let's see what's on the menu. Let us see what most closely resembles what you really want to study, like we were talking about the other day. And then fish from what we have within and see whether we can afford you that path to realizing your dream. So I really do want to encourage young people who do want to go away to study, that you come into the ministry and engage those fantastic young ladies, and they will guide you. They will guide you not only with respect to what you can study, but where you can study given the scholarships that we have on the menu. So, there's a lot on offer. One of the things that we did as well recently, and it is something that has been happening, but we recognize that it needs to be more structured, that there needs to be more a better governance structure for it, and that is in the area of sports scholarships. That many of those scholarships are partial scholarships, and I can speak for the people in my community in particular. In many respects, we've had to find the resources to match what is on offer, and we realize that there is a gap, an expectation gap, between what perhaps the young sports scholar was told or offered and that which obtains when the person gets overseas, and then you realize, ouch, we have a financial gap here, what can we do? And so, whereas we're always happy to help, it's one of those areas that I'd like to see more structured. And in fact, 2 months ago, we had a meeting with the Ministry of Sports, and the team presented to Cabinet one of the ways in which we can correct some of the issues around those partial scholarships, especially the sports scholarships. And I was really excited to see what's on paper, and I'm sure the young sportsmen and women will be glad to know what we're working on for them.
Okay.
There's a lot more, of course, but I'm mindful that you want to move on to something else, but I'm happy to talk about what we're doing for young people.
As being on the topic of sports, let's talk sports, my fave. So my understanding, all the football matches from this constituency will be at the new sporting facility in Mikunov upon completion. Can you share some clarification on what is the timing of completion for this project?
Well, the latter part of the question first. I think now that I have touched the surface myself.
Oh, how does it feel?
Soft, mushy, very cushion-like. I'm hoping that the guys get fewer bruises. But I am more confident in saying that certainly we are nearing completion.
Okay.
They were drawing the boxes.
Oh, yes,
today.
I saw them today while I passed.
Yes, so that's exciting. I want to correct the notion that all football matches will be held there, because we know football is a very popular sport in our community and in much of St. Lucia as well. And the guys have their sweat and their small goals in their respective communities, whether it's Fiadel, Monipo Field, the Patience Field, you go to Wen on a Sunday morning. You know, so there are areas where guys will continue to have their sweat and to have their matches. But if we're putting on a tournament, if we have a big match, a big tournament like a Black Heart or a Gale Rigobert tournament or another league tournament, then at least we know, thank goodness, now we have a facility that can accommodate that kind of sport. And the ambition, similarly, for cricket is that when it comes to cricket, whereas guys can play cricket in their neck of the woods, when it comes to an official match, then when will become that designated space.
Okay. Well, thanks for clarification. I'm sure the young footballers are so excited.
Oh, they're very concerned about that.
Yes, they were. Yes. So, as we all know, your opponents in the coming general election, Jeremiah Norbert, is currently recovering from injuries from a serious road accident. Do you have any words of encouragement, or do you have any message to send his way?
Three things. This was a dreadful evening for the community.
Yes, it was.
It was a horrible accident. Nobody wishes for this to happen to anybody. And I must say that when I joined him and the family at the hospital, it was a very moving experience. And we did what people in Miko North do. I did what I have done as MP for the past 10 years. Be there and do that which is necessary. And I want to thank my colleagues as well, because when I reached out to them, whatever it is that was required was on offer. And I really appreciate that. I continue to wish him well. We have been praying for him as a community.
Yes, we have.
There was at least one church service held, and I attended that as well. But in our quarters, in our private spaces, as one community, we continue to pray for his speedy recovery. And it tells us that, you know, life is so fleeting, so volatile. We're so vulnerable. And as Jean-Michel North, nous l'appuyons a lot. And that is why the theme that, the umbrella theme for this year's re-engagement of the people of Miko North is nous tous sayons famille à Miko North. Nous tous sayons famille. Right. And if there's anything that resonated with me, it was that we are one large family in Miko North, and politics will not divide us.
Right, right. I like that one.
But I continue to wish him well.
Yes. I feel like after that speech, I was motivated. So finally, maybe you can speak to our youth about the importance of going out to vote.
Oh, yes. That was a lovely ball. Why is it important to go out to vote? I recognize that
we all have different interests and we come from various family settings, and we perhaps have residual reservations about voting, and some families, you grew up in a space where it's automatic. You just know and understand that you must go out to vote. It is important to vote. And I want to say right after that the exercise of your franchise, that ability, that freedom, that privilege, that right to vote does not begin and end with voting in the exercise of your rights as a citizen within our beautiful democracy. And by that I mean, while I want to emphasize and encourage young people to go out there to vote, to have a say, to participate, your participation continues throughout. So in the way, for example, we continue to have career fairs, engagements with the young people, meetings regarding maybe what is happening with when we had the consultations with the Monaco Patients parents because we were considering the merger, when we had the meetings regarding the construction of the Mico Wellness Center, when we had the community meetings in Pali with reference to what's happening with the CMOS farmers and designation of space on the open water, when we had the meeting in Pali about the construction of the new road, or the field and fencing of the field in Pali, etc., that your continuing participation is very, very important. When young people meet me, wherever I am, in whatever social space, or when they come to the constituency on constituency office days, you know, that continuing engagement is what I want to underline. So whereas I am compelled to say it is important for you to go out to vote and to choose someone who best represents your aspirations, the aspirations you have for yourself or your family, that person who presents you with the better opportunity to move from one level of development to the next, it is important to maintain the engagement. And in that regard, therefore, go out to vote, have your say, because what you see before you can only happen with your partnership, with your endorsement, by ensuring that you have the right party in government to deliver to you and your family. So I'm sure in a subsequent show, Hannah, you and I will go on a tour of the constituency, and we will see firsthand some of the fantastic work that has been done, and we can use some of that to convince young people to have a say, to participate, and stay tuned in.
Okay.
So we have a beautiful young lady from our community, Amira, and her friends, who are going to share with us some words of wisdom. Please, stay tuned.
Hi everyone, I'm Amira Sere and I'm a student at the Monaco Patients Combined School. I'm in grade 6 and my teacher is Miss Stanislas. My favorite subject would be math. I don't normally like it, but my teacher makes it finds a way to make it fun. I also love the positive quote she put up all over the walls. It reminds me to keep going. Also, the new wing is very impressive. The balcony is very large. So at break time, I can eat my snack and, go for a nice little walk. I also like the size of the classroom, so I'm not sticking on anybody because, 6 feet apart. Before, it was a rocky ride coming to school when I normally take the bus. But now, the drivers don't have any complaints now that the district rep fixed it. Before, it was like a rocky, stony road. The road, but now that they fixed it with some concrete and nice tools, it's a smooth ride. I may even fall asleep.
Thank you, Dr. Rigobert.
So, Hannah, thank you for staying on.
It was my pleasure.
Oh my God, I broke a. It was like a workout. These were some really tough questions, but I enjoyed the interaction.
Yes.
Now it's my turn to ask you.
Ooh, I hope it's not hard questions.
No. I just want to give you the opportunity to tell us a little more about yourself and what aspirations you have.
Well, growing up as a young girl, my whole life I sang in church, I sang in school choirs, I represented my school singing. I always had that dream for singing, but I'm at a point in my life where I'm still confused. Do I want to use it as a career? But I also had the dreams of studying pediatrics, becoming a pediatrician. Wow. So that's it.
Oh, wow, you've got quite a healthy menu there. And please don't feel forced that you have to choose.
Yes.
You can do all of these things. So you can continue with your singing career while you pursue your medical dreams or dreams of becoming a doctor, a pediatrician in particular. And I'm here to guide you along the way. That's what I do. That's what I love to do. I always say that my gift is I transform lives. And let's work together. Let's see where we can go from here.
Yes, we can. And
given that you already have an interest in medicine, perhaps you're the best person to remind people of the protocols and the importance of adhering to the protocols.
Why not? So guys, I urge you, I don't have the medical degree, but I urge you, let's protect ourselves. Let's stay safe out there and follow protocols. It's not for me, it's for all of us to stay safe.
Good. So over the Easter weekend, please wear your mask. Wash your hands. Maintain some social distancing. Please, please, please. Why? It is for you, for the country, for me, for your family. So we can all stay safe, stay healthy, and enjoy one another after COVID. We all want to be around after COVID-19 to return to the usual family get-together and hang out. So just hang on a little longer. Let's do the right thing for your sake, for our sake, for my sake, and for the sake of this beautiful nation of ours. Jamie Kuna, we know what to do. Wear your mask. Thank you for joining me. Thank you so much, Hannah.
Oh, thank you.
And thank you for allowing us into your homes. I really enjoyed this. And may I invite you, please, to join us next Tuesday, same time, when we do a little more of this. We've got this.
My MP said that we would have a new wellness center. Here we are. It's almost finished.
My community said we needed a new wing to our secondary school. And my MP said yes.
My sister said she needed help to find a job, so my MP created a job fair.
Our athlete said we needed better sporting facilities.
A new early childhood development center.
My neighbors said.
My sister said.
The children said.
Community said.
Roads and a new park. And my MP said.
Yes.
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 Of course.
Nous toutes, c'est yon famille en Mikoud Nord. Et nous continuons pour faire progrès avec Aunty Gale.
Crossfire, discussing the issues. Norbert Williams, Champagne, Dr. Secret, and Ring the Bell. Thursdays, 8 p.m. on Sky FM and GVD TV. Don't you miss it.
My mother sent us back. It was out of his breakfast to give us something. Still good.
Things were very difficult with my parents, and my mother opened a small bakery in the Castries area.
Because my father do everything he could do for me, not for himself, for me, personal. And from there, when I see my mom, I just stood and I just remember my mother and my father every day, how they take it so hard to bring us up. And I seen from today there, I have two disabled children from mother. The mother asks for freedom, and they don't want that freedom, you know.